History often remembers the Spartans as comic book heroes, men of marble and impossible strength. But if you were to stand in the Eurotas Valley 2,500 years ago, you wouldn't see superheroes. You would see a society that had systematically stripped away every shred of individual humanity to create a collective machine. Look at this valley. It looks peaceful now, the olive groves swaying in the breeze. But for a Spartan, the very first breath was a declaration of war. Most Greek cities celebrated a birth with wine and garlands. Not here. In Sparta, a father did not simply embrace his child. He carried the newborn to the leash, to a council of elders who sat with the cold detachment of weaponsmiths grading raw iron. They weren't looking for a son to carry on a name. They were looking for a soldier to carry a shield. They inspected the limbs for any twist, the lungs for any rasp, the eyes for any cloud. If the boy was frail, if he was deemed a mouth that could not fight, he was cast into the apothete, the place of rejection at the foot of those jagged, unforgiving peaks of Mount Taygetus. It was the state's first lesson. You are only as valuable as your utility. But this boy was firm. He was allowed to live. But from that moment on, he belonged to the state more than to his own blood. For 7 years, he knew the touch of a mother. Then the door to his childhood slammed shut forever. He was taken into the agos, a decade-long forge of sanctioned brutality designed to break the individual and temper the soul. Imagine it. A young boy stripped of his name, given one thin cloak a year. No shoes, no bed. This single piece of wool was his only protection against the biting mountain frost of winter and the searing, dusty sun of the Peloponnesian summer. He was kept in a state of constant, gnawing hunger. The elders didn't forget to feed them. They chose not to. They wanted him to steal. They wanted him to learn the cunning of a fox and the stealth of a wolf. But there was a catch. If he were caught, the lash was merciless. Not because he stole, but for the clumsiness of being seen. To be caught was to be a failure. At night, he didn't sleep on a mattress. He slept on a bed of sharp river reeds, which he had to tear from the banks of the Eurotas with his bare hands. No knives allowed. It wasn't an education in letters or philosophy. It was a 10-year endurance test. If you traveled to Athens, you'd see the towering walls of the Acropolis. But if you walked into the heart of Laconia, you would be confused. You would find no grand marble ramparts. When a traveler once mocked this lack of fortifications, the Spartan king Lycurgus simply pointed to his men drilling in the dirt and said, "These are the walls of Sparta." The city was never a grand metropolis. It was a collection of 5 humble, rugged villages spread across the valley. They didn't hide behind stone because they believed that a city that fears no enemy needs no gates. Their security was built of bone, bronze, and a psychological refusal to take a single step backward. In Sparta, if the enemy reached your homes, it meant every single man in the city was already dead. There was no middle ground. This society was a rigid grinding machine. It was governed by 2 kings to check each other's power and a council of 30 elders known as the Gerousia. But the real genius, or perhaps the real horror, was in the politics of the equals. To ensure no man grew too wealthy, too soft, or too arrogant, they outlawed gold and silver. They didn't want currency that could be hidden in a pocket. Instead, they used heavy, brittle iron spits for money. They were so cumbersome you'd need a wagon and a team of oxen just to move a modest fortune. It was a brilliant, cruel stroke of social engineering. It ensured that every citizen, from the king to the common soldier, remained an equal, sharing the same dirt, the same meager black broth, and the same destiny. But who worked the fields while the equals trained? This is the dark underside of the legend. For every Spartan soldier, there were 10 helots, the conquered serfs of Messenia. They were the ones who pressed the wine and harvested the grain. They were the constant, silent shadow at the Spartan back. The Spartans lived in a state of perpetual internal siege. Every year, the Spartan government would officially declare war on its own slave population just to keep the fear alive, just to make murder legal. Young men, the top graduates of the adjuge, were sent out into the night with nothing but a knife. This was the Cryptia. Their mission? To hunt and kill the strongest, most natural leaders among the helots. It was a dark necessity in their eyes, keeping the lions sharp and the sheep afraid. By 20, the boy had survived the agouge. He became a man of bronze. He donned the muscled breastplate and the greaves, but he learned that his life did not depend on his sword. It depended on the aspis, that massive 30-pound circular shield of oak and bronze. In a phalanx, your shield didn't protect you. It protected the man to your left. To drop your shield was to murder your brother. This is why a Spartan mother, handing her son his shield for the first time, didn't say good luck. She said, with it or on it. Come back carrying it in victory, or be carried home dead upon it. And the cloak? They wore crimson, not for fashion, but so that if a Spartan were wounded, the enemy would never see the stain of his blood. They wanted to appear as invincible, unbleeding ghosts. Even the most intimate parts of life were managed by the state. In Sparta, desire was treated as a tool for breeding. When a man reached the age for marriage, to maintain the warrior's edge, the soldier would slip away from his mess hall in the dead of night, creeping through the darkness to meet his bride in total secrecy. He would return to the barracks before dawn. Often, a Spartan man would have children before he ever saw his wife. Every moment was designed to keep them hungry, even for their own families. Do not mistake their brutality for atheism. The Spartans were the most superstitious of all the Greeks. They moved only when the gods allowed. They would not march to war if the moon was not full, a trait that famously made them late to the Battle of Marathon. They worshipped Apollo, but their true, terrifying devotion was to Artemis Orthia. At her altar, young boys were lashed until the stone was slick with blood, just to prove they could endure it without a whimper. They didn't pray for mercy. They made offerings to Ares, the god of blind rage, and Enyalius, the spirit of the war cry. To a Spartan, a prayer was only as good as the grip on his spear. When the day of battle finally came, the Spartans were different from any other army. They didn't charge with a chaotic, screaming rush. They moved to the haunting, high-pitched trill of flutes. The music wasn't for inspiration, it was for tempo. It kept their heartbeats steady and their march synchronized. Whether they were locking shields on a dusty plain or boarding triremes to turn the sea into a floating infantry deck, they moved as a single crushing organism. They were famous for their laconic wit. They never asked how many enemies were waiting. They only asked where they could be found. And so we reach the end of one man's journey. When a Spartan fell, there was no long-winded eulogy, no weeping in the streets. Death was treated with the same cold efficiency as life. In this city, only two types of people were allowed their names etched into stone: men who died in battle and women who died in childbirth. Both were seen as having given their life's blood for the survival of the state. He is wrapped in his crimson cloak, the same one that hid his wounds in life and buried in a shallow grave with no jewels, no gold, only his spear at his side. 11 days of mourning are permitted, 11 days for the family to look at the empty seat at the mess table. But on the 12th day, the mourning is cut short by the sound of a rhythmic thud against the earth. The father is in the ground, but his legacy is already standing in the sunlight. His son, now a young man of 20, steps into the gap in the line. He picks up the heavy bronze aspis, feeling the familiar weight of his father's grip on the handle. He does not look at the grave. He looks at the man to his left. The name on the stone is static, but the blood is moving. The laws of Lycurgus do not weep, they only demand more. On the 12th day, the son adjusts his helmet, locks his shield into the wall, and the drill begins again. The cycle is unbroken. The wall of bone remains. The Spartan did not seek to live forever through stories, but through the strength of the sun standing behind him. That relentless, unforgiving cycle is what made Sparta a legend that refuses to die, even thousands of years later. Thank you for walking this path with us today. From the heights of the Apothetai to the dust of the phalanx, we've seen what it costs to be an equal. If this journey moved you, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. It's the best way to support us as we bring more of these ancient stories back to life.